The metal doors of Research Station Meridian 7 slid open with a cold hiss. Taman stood in the observation room, his hands pressed against the glass barrier. His breath made small clouds of fog on the surface as he watched the transport ship dock in the bay below. "She's dangerous," Hyejin said from behind him. Her voice was sharp and worried. "The reports say her whole species is unstable. That's why they're all gone now." Taman turned to face his superior officer. Hyejin was older than him by 15 years, with gray streaks in her dark hair. She had seen many alien species come through this station, but her face showed real fear this time. "The reports also say she's the last one," Taman replied quietly. "The last of her entire species. Don't you think that deserves some understanding?" "Understanding won't matter if she hurts someone," Hyejin said. She handed him a data tablet. "Read the file again. The Sirath destroyed their own world. The Galactic Council believes they did it on purpose." Taman took the tablet but didn't look at it. He had already read the file 7 times. He knew what it said. The Sirath homeworld had been destroyed 3 months ago. Only 8 survivors had been found. This one, named Vela, was being sent to their station because no one else wanted to deal with her. The transport bay doors opened. Security officers walked out first, their weapons ready. Behind them came a figure in silver restraints. Taman felt his chest tighten when he saw her. Vela was humanoid in shape but clearly not human. Her skin looked like it was made of smooth crystal, pale blue and translucent. Beneath the surface, patterns of light moved slowly, like stars drifting through water. Her eyes were large and completely black, reflecting everything around her. She was thin, too thin, as if she hadn't eaten in weeks. The restraints covered her wrists and ankles. They hummed with energy, probably dampening whatever abilities the council feared. 2 guards held her arms as they led her toward the containment area. "She looks scared," Taman said softly. "She should be," Hyejin replied. "We all should be." 3 days passed before Taman was allowed to meet with Vela. He spent those days preparing, reading everything he could about the Sirath. There wasn't much information. They had been an isolated species, keeping to themselves for thousands of years. The few contact records showed they communicated in strange ways, mixing words with something else that human translators couldn't capture. The research team tried to interview Vela twice. Both times she remained silent. She wouldn't speak, wouldn't move, wouldn't even look at the scientists. She just sat in her containment cell, her light patterns dim and slow. "Maybe she can't speak our language," Minho suggested. He was Taman's colleague, a biologist who studied alien physiology. Or maybe the trauma broke something in her mind. Or maybe she just doesn't want to talk to people who treat her like a monster, Taman said. Minho shrugged. "Be careful. Hyejin is already worried about you. She thinks you're too soft for this work." Taman ignored the comment. He gathered his translation equipment and headed to the containment level. The cell was small but clean. White walls, a simple bed, a table and chair. Vela sat on the floor in the corner as far from the door as possible. Her arms were wrapped around her knees. The lights under her skin pulsed very slowly, like a dying heartbeat. "Hello?" Taman said softly. He didn't step inside. He stayed at the doorway, giving her space. "My name is Taman. I'm a xenolinguist. That means I study languages. I'm here to help you communicate with us." Vela didn't move. She didn't look at him. Taman sat down on the floor outside the cell door. He placed his translation device between them. "I know you've had a difficult time. I know you've lost everything. I can't imagine how that feels. But I want to try to understand, if you'll let me." Minutes passed in silence. Taman didn't rush her. He had learned patience in his years of working with alien species. Communication wasn't just about words. It was about trust. Finally, Vela raised her head. Her black eyes fixed on him. The lights under her skin flickered, changing from dim blue to a soft purple color. "You're different," she said. Her voice was strange, like wind chimes and whispers combined. The translation device struggled to process it. "The others fear me. You do not." "I'm not afraid of you," Taman said honestly. "I'm sad for you." "There's a difference." Vela tilted her head, studying him. "Sad? Why sad?" "Because you lost your home. Your people. Everything you knew." Taman kept his voice gentle. "That's worth being sad about." The lights under Vela's skin brightened slightly. She uncurled from her position and moved closer to the barrier between them. For the first time, Taman could see details in her face. The way her crystalline skin caught the light, the delicate structure of her features. They say my people destroyed themselves, Vela whispered. They say we were dangerous and unstable, but that is not the truth. Then tell me the truth, Taman said. Vela's lights flickered rapidly, showing distress. I cannot make you understand with words alone. My people, we speak with more than sound. We speak with feeling. Emotion is part of our language. Without it, the meaning is lost, Taman leaned forward. Then teach me. Show me how to understand. It will hurt you, Vela said. Her voice cracked. We feel everything so strongly. It is why we hid from the galaxy for so long. Your emotions are quiet to you. Ours are like storms. When I try to share, others feel pain. I can handle pain, Taman said, if it means understanding you. Vela moved until she was directly across from him, only the barrier between them. She placed her hand against the transparent wall. Slowly, carefully, Taman placed his hand on the other side, matching her position. The lights under Vela's skin surged. Taman felt something strange, like a vibration in his chest. Not physical, but emotional. A wave of sadness so deep and vast that his breath caught. But beneath it he felt something else. Hope. Tiny and fragile, but real. Lonely, Vela said softly. The word came out in her language and human language at the same time. I am so lonely. Taman felt tears on his face. He didn't wipe them away. I understand, he said. You're lonely, but you're not alone anymore. I'm here. The lights in Vela's skin pulsed brighter, shifting to a warm amber color. It was the first time she had shown any color besides blue since arriving at the station. From the observation room above, Hyejin watched the interaction on the monitors. Her face was troubled. Minho stood beside her, shaking his head. He's getting too involved, Minho said. This won't end well. Hyejin didn't answer. She just watched as Taman and Vela sat together, separated by a wall but connected by something neither of them fully understood yet. In the cell, Taman smiled at Vela. Let's start simple, he said. Teach me one word each day. We'll build your language together. As much as I can learn, Vela nodded slowly. For the first time since her world ended, she felt something other than crushing despair. She felt the smallest spark of connection. Thank you, she whispered. You're the first to try to truly hear me. Outside the station, stars glittered in the endless black of space. Inside, something new was beginning. A bridge between two very different kinds of beings. A human who chose compassion over fear, and an alien who hadn't given up hope completely. It was only the first day, but it was a start. 2 weeks had passed since Taman's first meeting with Vela. Every day he spent hours with her, learning the complex way the Sirath communicated. It was unlike anything he had studied before. Each word carried emotional weight, and the lights under Vela's skin changed colors to add meaning that spoken language couldn't capture. Hyejin wasn't happy about it. She stood outside the containment area, arms crossed, watching through the glass as Taman and Vela sat facing each other. He's breaking protocol, Minho said, looking at his datapad. He's spending 3 times the approved contact hours with her, and he's not wearing the emotional dampening equipment anymore. I know, Hyejin said quietly. Her face showed concern. I'm worried about him. He's taking this too personally. Inside the cell, Taman didn't notice them watching. He was focused entirely on Vela. She was teaching him about her people, and every lesson broke his heart a little more. We were called the Keepers of Feeling, Vela explained. Her lights pulsed with soft colors as she spoke. In the galaxy, most species experience emotions and then they pass, like clouds moving across the sky. But for the Sirath, emotions are permanent. We keep them, store them, carry them forever. That sounds beautiful, Taman said, but also very heavy. Vela's lights dimmed to dark purple. It is both. When something good happens, we carry that joy with us always. But when something terrible happens, her voice trailed off. We carry that too. We cannot forget. We cannot let go. Taman was beginning to understand why the Sirath had isolated themselves for so long. If they felt everything so intensely, the galaxy must have been overwhelming for them. Is that why your people stayed hidden? He asked gently. Vela nodded. Other species, their feelings wash over us like waves. Thousands of voices all feeling all the time. It was too much. We needed silence. We needed peace. So we found a world far from others and made it our home. What was your role among your people? Taman asked. The lights under Vela's skin flickered rapidly, showing distress. She was quiet for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. I was a memory keeper, the highest calling among my people. When someone experienced something too painful to carry alone, they could share it with me. I would hold part of their burden. I carried the difficult memories for thousands of my people. Taman felt his chest tighten. That must have been incredibly hard. It was an honor, Vela said, to help others find peace, to carry what they could not. But then, her lights went completely dark the first time Taman had seen them go out entirely. The Krell came. She had mentioned the Krell before but never explained. Taman waited patiently, giving her time. The Krell Empire wanted our world, Vela continued, her voice shaking. We had resources they desired. We told them we wished to live in peace. We offered to share what they needed. But they did not want to share. They wanted everything. What happened? Vela's lights flickered back on, but they were blood red now, a color Taman had never seen from her before. They attacked without warning. Their weapons, they did not just destroy buildings and bodies, they destroyed life itself. The atmosphere burned. The oceans boiled. 30 billion Sirath died in less than a day. Taman felt sick. Vela, I'm so sorry. As a memory keeper, I felt them all die, Vela whispered. The red lights under her skin pulsed like a wound. Every single death. Every moment of fear and pain and loss. 30 billion voices screaming in my mind as they ended. I carry them all now. Every single one. Tears rolled down Taman's face. He couldn't imagine it. The weight of that much death, that much suffering, all trapped inside one being. The Galactic Council says we destroyed ourselves, Vela said bitterly. They say the Sirath were unstable and dangerous. They ignore what the Krell did because the Krell are powerful and we are gone. It is easier to blame the victims than to hold the guilty accountable. That's not right, Taman said angrily. That's not justice. Justice does not exist for extinct species, Vela replied. That night, Taman couldn't sleep. He lay in his quarters, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything Vela had told him. The magnitude of her suffering was beyond comprehension. How was she even functioning? How had she not broken completely under that weight? He made a decision then. He had been following protocol, keeping his sessions with Vela within professional boundaries. But protocol wasn't helping her. She needed more than academic study. She needed someone who truly cared. The next day, he brought something new to their session. A small portable music player. What is this? Vela asked, curious. Music, Taman said. It's how humans express feelings we can't put into words. I thought, since your people communicate with emotion, you might appreciate it. He played a piece of classical human music, a piano composition, simple and melancholic. As the notes filled the air, Vela's entire body began to glow. The lights under her skin danced and swirled in patterns Taman had never seen. Colors shifted from blue to gold to green, creating a display like the northern lights. Tears began falling from Vela's dark eyes. They looked like liquid diamonds as they rolled down her crystalline cheeks. This is beautiful, she whispered. I can feel the emotion woven into every note. The longing, the sadness, the hope underneath it all. She looked at Taman with wonder. Your species can create this? This perfect expression of feeling? Yes, Taman said softly. We may not feel as intensely as the Sirath, but we feel deeply in our own way. Vela closed her eyes, letting the music wash over her. My people had songs too. They were our greatest art form. Songs that carried the history of our species. Songs of joy and sorrow, of love and loss. We sang together. All of us, our voices and lights, creating something greater than any individual could make alone. What happened to those songs? Taman asked, though he feared he knew the answer. They died with my people, Vela said. The lights under her skin dimmed. I am the only one who remembers them now. But I cannot sing them alone. They were meant for millions of voices, not one. An idea began forming in Taman's mind. A dangerous protocol-breaking idea, but he couldn't let it go, Vela. He said carefully. You share emotions as part of your language, right? Could you share memories the same way? Could you show me one of your people's songs? Vela looked alarmed. Taman, no. It would hurt you. My memories are too heavy. The pain I carry would overwhelm you. What if we started small? Taman insisted. Not the painful memories. Just a simple song. Something beautiful from before everything went wrong. Vela hesitated. The lights under her skin flickered with uncertainty. You would do this? You would let me share my memories with you, even knowing the risk? I want to understand, Taman said. Really understand. Not just with words, but the way your people understood each other. If there's a chance I could help you carry even a small part of your burden, I want to try. For a long moment, Vela just stared at him. Then slowly she reached out her hand. The barrier, she said. It will block the connection. You would need to come inside with me. Taman stood up. He heard Heejin's voice crackle over the intercom immediately. Taman, do not enter that cell. That is an order. He looked up at the observation window. He could see Heijin there, her face stern. Minho stood beside her, shaking his head. I'm sorry, Taman said into the air, but I need to do this. He overrode the door lock with his security clearance and stepped into the cell. The door sealed behind him. Alarms began blaring throughout the station. Vela stood up slowly. You would risk your career for this? For me? You're not a threat, Taman said firmly. You're a person in pain, and I'm going to help you, no matter what anyone else thinks. Vela's lights brightened to brilliant white. She reached out and took Taman's hand. Her crystalline skin was cool to the touch, smooth like glass. Close your eyes, she whispered. And open your heart. Taman closed his eyes. He felt a surge of warmth spread from where their hands touched. And then, suddenly, he wasn't in the cell anymore. He was somewhere else entirely. He stood on a world of crystal cliffs and glowing forests. Above him, 3 moons hung in a purple sky. Around him, thousands of Sirath sang together, their lights creating patterns in the air like living art. The song they sang had no words, just pure emotion made into sound. It spoke of home, of belonging, of love so deep it transcended individual existence. It was the most beautiful thing Taman had ever experienced. Tears streamed down his face as the memory washed through him. Taman woke up in the medical bay. His head pounded and his whole body ached. Heejin sat beside his bed, her face tight with worry and anger. You were unconscious for 6 hours, she said sharply. What were you thinking going into that cell? Breaking protocol like that? I'm fine, Taman said, sitting up slowly. Where's Vela? Is she okay? She's back in containment, Heejin replied. Under heavier security now, and you're suspended from the project until further notice. You can't do that, Taman protested. She needs me. She's finally starting to open up. That's exactly the problem, Heejin said. You're too involved. You're losing objectivity. This isn't research anymore, Taman. You're becoming emotionally attached to the subject. She's not a subject, Taman said angrily. She's a person, the last survivor of a genocide, and everyone is treating her like she's the problem instead of the victim. Before Hyojin could respond, the door to the medical bay slid open. A man in formal council robes entered. He was human, tall and stern-looking, with silver hair and cold eyes. I am Council Representative Junho, he said. I've come to inform you that the Galactic Council will be arriving tomorrow to make a final determination on the Sirath survivor. Taman felt his blood run cold. Final determination? What does that mean? It means they will decide what to do with her, Junho replied. The council believes that the Sirath are too dangerous to remain free. There are 8 survivors total. The council is considering deportation to a containment world where they can be monitored and prevented from harming others. She hasn't harmed anyone, Taman argued. You're talking about imprisoning her for crimes she didn't commit. Junho's expression didn't change. The Sirath's emotional abilities can affect other species in unpredictable ways. They are a biological risk. The council must prioritize the safety of the greater galactic community. That's not safety, Taman said. That's fear. You're punishing them for being different. That's enough, Heejin said quietly, placing a hand on Taman's shoulder. Representative Junho, when will the hearing take place? Tomorrow at noon, Junho replied. Taman will be called to testify about his research findings. I trust he will be professional. Junho left without waiting for a response. Heejin sighed heavily. You need to be careful, she told Taman. What you say tomorrow could determine Vela's entire future. Don't let your emotions compromise your testimony. That night, Taman requested permission to see Vela one last time before the hearing. After much argument, Heejin approved a brief visit under heavy guard. Vela sat in her cell, her lights dim and gray. She looked smaller somehow, more fragile than before. When she saw Taman, her lights flickered weakly. I heard about the council, she said softly. I know what they will decide. I won't let them lock you away, Taman promised. I'll testify tomorrow. I'll tell them the truth about what happened to your people. Vela shook her head slowly. The truth does not matter to those who do not wish to hear it. The council has already decided. They will send me away. They will send all of us away. Then I'll fight harder, Taman said desperately. There has to be something I can do. You have already done more than anyone else, Vela replied. Her voice was gentle, sad. You listened to me. You tried to understand. You shared my memories and saw my world as it was before it ended. That is a gift I can never repay. I'm not giving up on you, Taman insisted. The next morning, the council chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of species. Taman sat in the witness area, his hands clenched into fists. Beside him, Minho whispered good luck, though his tone suggested he thought this was already a lost cause. The council members sat in a semicircle on raised platforms. Junio was among them, his face expressionless. At the center of the room, in a transparent containment field, stood Vela. She looked so alone, surrounded by all these powerful beings who held her fate in their hands. We call xenolinguist Taman to provide testimony, announced the council chair, an insectoid being with a clicking voice. Taman stood and walked to the testimony platform. He took a deep breath. I have spent the last 3 weeks studying the Sirath survivor called Vela, he began. My findings contradict the reports you've received. The Sirath are not dangerous. They are not unstable. They are deeply empathetic beings who experience emotions more intensely than most species. And is that not precisely what makes them dangerous? Junio interrupted. Their emotional intensity could destabilize other species. Only if we fear them, Taman argued. Vela has shown me memories of her people. The Sirath lived in peace for thousands of years. They isolated themselves not because they were dangerous, but because they were overwhelmed by the emotions of others. They were trying to protect themselves, not threaten anyone. Yet their world was destroyed, another council member said. The evidence suggests internal conflict led to their extinction. That's a lie, Taman said firmly. The Sirath were victims of genocide. The Krell Empire attacked them without provocation. Vela carries the memories of 30 billion deaths. She knows exactly what happened. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Junho's face darkened. These are serious accusations, the council chair said. Do you have proof? Vela is the proof, Taman said. As a memory keeper, she holds the truth of what happened. If you would allow her to share her memories with the council, you would see the truth. Absolutely not, Junho said quickly. Allowing her to use her abilities on council members would be reckless. We cannot risk contamination. Contamination? Taman repeated angrily. You mean you don't want to feel what she felt? You don't want to experience the truth because it's uncomfortable? That is enough, the council chair said sternly. Taman, your emotional investment in this case is clear. Your testimony is noted, but we question its objectivity. Taman opened his mouth to argue further, but he never got the chance. Suddenly, Vela cried out. The lights under her skin flared brilliant red, pulsing rapidly. I cannot, she sobbed. I cannot hold it anymore. I cannot carry this alone. The containment field around her flickered. Energy rippled outward from Vela in a wave. It hit everyone in the chamber at once. Taman gasped as a flood of emotion crashed into him. Not his own feelings, but Vela's. The weight of 30 billion deaths, the crushing loneliness of being the last keeper of her people's memories, the desperate, aching need to be understood, to be seen as more than a threat. Around the chamber, council members cried out. Some fell to their knees. Others clutched their heads. For just a moment, every being in that room felt a fraction of what Vela carried every single day. Then, as quickly as it began, the wave subsided. Vela collapsed inside the containment field, her lights going completely dark. Alarms blared. Medical teams rushed forward. In the chaos, Taman pushed through the crowd to reach her. Guards tried to stop him, but he didn't care. He knelt beside the containment field. Vela, he called desperately. Vela, can you hear me? Her eyes opened slowly. The lights under her skin flickered weakly back to life, barely visible. I am sorry, she whispered. I tried to keep it contained. But they do not understand. They will never understand. I understand, Taman said, pressing his hand against the containment field. I'm here. You're not alone. Vela looked at him, and for the first time since he'd met her, she smiled. It was a sad smile, full of pain and resignation. You're the only one who gets me, human, she cried softly, tears falling like liquid starlight down her crystalline face. But even you cannot carry what I carry. No one can. Then let me try, Taman said. Let others try. You don't have to bear this alone. Before Vela could respond, the guards pulled Taman away. The medical team placed Vela on a hovering stretcher and rushed her out of the chamber. The council chair called for order. When the room finally quieted, Junho stood to speak. What we just witnessed proves our concerns, he said. The Sirath are too dangerous. Their abilities are uncontrollable. For the safety of all species, I motion that all Sirath survivors be immediately transported to Isolation World 7, where they will remain under permanent quarantine. Seconded, another council member said quickly. Still shaken from the experience. Wait, a voice called out. Taman turned to see Hyejin standing in the observer section. Before you vote, there is something the council should know. Information that has been suppressed. Junho's face went pale. Representative Hyejin, you do not have clearance to speak here. Then arrest me, Hyejin said calmly. But first, let me share what I found. Because the truth about the Sirath genocide has been hidden for too long, and this council needs to know who was really responsible. The chamber erupted into chaos once more. But this time, Taman felt a small spark of hope. Hyejin stood before the Galactic Council, her face calm despite the chaos around her. Guards moved toward her, but the council chair raised a hand to stop them. Speak quickly, the chair commanded. And this had better be important. 3 nights ago, Hyejin began, I accessed restricted council files regarding the Sirath genocide. What I found changes everything. Junho stood abruptly. Those files are classified for good reason. You had no authority to access them. I had every reason to access them, Hyejin countered, because they proved the council lied. The Sirath didn't destroy themselves, and the Krell didn't act alone. She activated a holographic display. Documents appeared in the air, showing communication records and intelligence reports. Taman watched from below, his heart pounding. 2 years before the Sirath genocide, Hyejin continued, Council intelligence flagged the Sirath as a potential threat, not because they had done anything wrong, but because their emotional abilities made council members uncomfortable. Several representatives proposed a preemptive containment protocol. This is preposterous, Junho said, but his voice wavered. The Sirath refused containment, Hyejin went on. They wanted to remain free on their own world. So certain council members provided false intelligence to the Krell Empire, suggesting the Sirath were developing weapons. The Krell, always eager for expansion, used this as justification for their attack. The chamber fell silent. Council members looked at each other with shock and growing horror. You're saying the council enabled genocide? The chair asked slowly. Not the entire council, Hyejin clarified. But certain members, yes. They wanted the Sirath gone because they feared what they didn't understand. And when the genocide happened, they covered it up by blaming the victims. Junho's face had gone red. You have no proof of council involvement. These are just files that could mean anything. I have the communications, Hyejin said calmly. She expanded the hologram, showing message chains between Council Representative Danvik and Krell Military Command, discussing the Sirath problem and how to resolve it permanently. Danvik retired conveniently right after the genocide. He now lives quite comfortably on a Krell-controlled world. The evidence was damning. Even Junho couldn't argue against it. The council chamber erupted into angry voices. Some representatives shouted accusations. Others demanded immediate investigations. Taman felt dizzy with relief and rage. Vela had been telling the truth all along. Her people had been murdered, and the council had helped make it happen. The council chair called for order, pounding a gavel until the noise subsided. This is a serious matter that requires full investigation. However, it does not change the immediate question before us. What do we do with the Sirath survivors? We free them, said a new voice. A young woman stood from the observer section. She wore the robes of a human representative. My name is Nari. I represent Earth's civilian government, and I say the Sirath have suffered enough. They deserve asylum, not imprisonment. They are dangerous, another council member argued. You all felt what happened today. That emotional wave could have killed us. It was a trauma response, Nari countered. Vela wasn't attacking anyone. She was breaking under the weight of what she's been forced to carry alone. Would any of us do better in her position? Humans cannot possibly understand, the Insectoid Council chair said. Your species is young and impulsive. You don't comprehend the risks involved. Maybe that's exactly why we need to speak, Nari replied firmly. Because we're not so old and cynical that we've forgotten what compassion means. The Sirath are victims. They need help, not punishment, Junho scoffed. And I suppose Earth volunteers to house them? To take responsibility if they prove dangerous? Nari smiled slightly. Actually, yes. Earth formally requests custody of all 8 Sirath survivors. We will provide them sanctuary, medical care, and whatever support they need to heal. The chamber exploded with reactions. Some council members supported the idea. Others called it madness. Taemin couldn't believe what he was hearing. Earth was offering to protect Vela and her people. This is madness, Junho said. Humanity is barely advanced enough for council membership. And you want to take responsibility for the most emotionally powerful species we've ever encountered? We've dealt with difficult situations before, Nari said calmly. And unlike some species, we're willing to try understanding before condemning. Isn't that what civilization is supposed to mean? The debate raged for hours. Taemin waited anxiously, hoping to hear news about Vela's condition. Finally, Hyejin found him in the waiting area. She's stable, Hyejin said. The doctors say she exhausted herself completely. She'll need time to recover. Can I see her? Taemin asked. Hyejin hesitated, then nodded. Yes, but Taemin, I need you to understand something. What you've been doing, breaking protocol, getting emotionally involved, it's dangerous. Not just for your career, but for you. I know, Taemin said quietly, but I can't just walk away from her. She needs someone who cares. I know, Hyejin said softly. That's why I released those files. Because you made me see what I'd been too afraid to acknowledge. Sometimes rules matter less than doing what's right. Vela was in a medical room, connected to monitoring equipment. Her lights pulsed weakly, barely visible under her crystalline skin. When she saw Taemin enter, they brightened slightly. You came, she whispered. Of course I came, Taemin said, sitting beside her bed. How are you feeling? Empty, Vela replied. When I lost control, some of the memories spilled out. The weight is lighter now, but the memories are fading. My people's history is disappearing. No, Taemin said firmly. He took her hand gently. I have an idea. Something that might help. But I need to know if you're willing to try. Try what? The problem is you're carrying everything alone, Taemin explained. 30 billion memories inside one person. It's too much for anyone. But what if you didn't have to carry it alone? What if others could share the burden? Vela looked confused. My people are gone. There is no one to share with. But there are humans, Taemin said. We experienced a small piece of your pain today in the council chamber. It was overwhelming, but we survived. What if we could do it intentionally? What if humans could help you carry your people's memories? That's impossible, Vela said. Humans don't have the capacity to hold memories like the Sirath do. Maybe not individually, Taemin admitted. But together? If we distributed the memories among many humans, each person carrying a small piece, it might work. Vela's lights flickered with something that might have been hope. You would do this? You would let me share the burden of my entire species with yours? If it means you don't have to suffer alone anymore? Taemin smiled. Yes, absolutely yes. Before Vela could respond, Minho entered the room. He looked uncomfortable but determined. I heard what you're planning, he said to Taemin, and I think you're crazy. But I also think you might be right. He turned to Vela. If you need people to help carry memories, I volunteer. I'll be the first. Vela stared at him in shock. You called me dangerous. You said I was a threat. I was wrong, Minho said simply. I was scared. But after today, after feeling what you feel, I understand. No one should have to carry that alone. Over the next few days, something remarkable happened. Word spread about Taemin's proposal. Scientists, soldiers, civilians, they all volunteered to help. Not just from the research station, but from across human space. Thousands of people offered to become memory carriers for the Sirath. Hyejin coordinated the effort, working with medical teams to develop a safe protocol for memory transfer. Nari pushed through the bureaucracy to make it official. Even some council members who had been hostile began changing their minds when they saw humanity's response. Your species continues to surprise me, the insectoid council chair told Nari that this level of collective empathy is rare in the galaxy. Maybe. That's our strength, Nari replied. We haven't been hurt enough times to stop caring yet. In her medical room, Vela watched reports of the volunteers streaming in. Her lights pulsed with colors Taemin had never seen before, bright and warm. I don't understand, she said softly. Why would so many humans do this for people they've never met? For a species that isn't even their own? Because it's the right thing to do, Taman said simply. And because you matter. Your people's memories matter. Their history, their culture, their songs, they all deserve to be remembered. Vela began to cry, but this time the tears weren't from pain. They were from something she hadn't felt since her world ended. Hope. When I lost my people, she whispered, I thought I lost everything. My purpose, my home, my reason to exist. I thought I would carry this burden until I died, and then even the memories would be gone forever. But you humans, you're offering me something I never dreamed possible. What's that? Taman asked gently. A future, Vela said. Her lights blazed brilliant gold. You're giving my people a future. Not the one we had before, but something new. Something we could never have imagined. The council took a final vote 3 days later. Thanks to the evidence Heejin provided and Earth's willingness to take responsibility, the Sirath survivors were granted full asylum. They would not be imprisoned. They would be free. More importantly, the council opened an investigation into the genocide. The truth about what happened was finally coming to light. 6 months had passed since the council's decision. A small world on the edge of human space had been transformed into a sanctuary for the Sirath. They called it New Haven, a place where the 8 survivors could live freely while working with human volunteers to preserve their people's memories. Taman stood in the central garden, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of purple and gold. The planet's 2 moons were already visible, hanging low on the horizon. Terraform teams had worked hard to make the environment similar to the original Sirath homeworld. It's not quite right, Vela said softly, coming to stand beside him. The colors are close, but the light feels different. And the gravity is slightly heavier than what we're used to. But it's home, Taman said. Or it can be in time. Vela's lights pulsed with soft blue and green. She looked healthier now, less fragile than when he'd first met her. The work of sharing her memories with human volunteers had lifted an enormous weight from her. I never thought I would use that word again, she admitted. Home, I thought that died with my world. Home isn't just a place, Taman said. It's where you're safe, where you're understood, where you belong. Over the past months, they had successfully transferred portions of Vela's memories to over 3,000 human volunteers. Each person now carried a small piece of Sirath history. The songs, the stories, the cultural knowledge that would have been lost forever. All of it was being preserved in human minds. The process had been difficult. Some volunteers couldn't handle the intensity of Sirath emotions and had to stop. Others found it overwhelming but persevered. But many, like Minho, had found the experience transformative. I understand now, Minho had said after his first session. Why you fought so hard for her. Carrying even a small part of their history, it changes you. Makes you realize how precious every culture is. Heejin had become the director of the New Haven project. She coordinated between the Sirath survivors and the volunteers, ensuring everything ran smoothly. Her initial fear had transformed into fierce protection. Anyone who threatened the sanctuary had to deal with her first. Nari had been elected to a higher position in Earth's government. She used her influence to push for stronger protections for endangered species across the galaxy. The Sirath case had become a turning point in human policy. And Junho? He had been removed from the council pending investigation. Evidence of his involvement in the Sirath genocide was mounting. Other council members implicated in the cover-up were facing similar consequences. The investigation is going well, Taman told Vela. They found more evidence linking certain council members to the Krell attack. There might actually be justice for your people. Justice won't bring them back, Vela said quietly, but it means they won't be forgotten. It means their deaths will be acknowledged as the crime it was. They walked through the garden together. Crystal trees, specially engineered to mimic Sirath flora, glowed softly in the twilight. Human children played nearby, their laughter filling the air. Some of the volunteers had brought their families to New Haven, creating a small community around the sanctuary. One little girl ran up to Vela, excited. Miss Vela, I learned a new song today. Can I sing it for you? Vela knelt down, her lights brightening with genuine joy. Of course, little one. I would love to hear it. The girl sang a traditional Sirath children's song, one that Vela had taught to the human children. Her pronunciation wasn't perfect and she couldn't create the light patterns that were part of the song, but she sang with such enthusiasm that Vela's eyes filled with happy tears. Beautiful, Vela said, hugging the child. Your voice carries the spirit of the song perfectly. The girl beamed and ran back to her friends. Taman smiled at the scene. This is what I hoped for, he said. Not just preserving memories, but keeping your culture alive. Those children will grow up knowing Sirath songs. They'll teach them to their own children someday. It's strange, Vela said, standing up. When I first arrived at your station, I thought I was the end of my people's story. The last chapter in a history that would die with me. But now I see I might be the beginning of something new. What do you mean? Vela gestured to the garden, to the children playing, to the human volunteers working with the other Sirath survivors in the distance. My people isolated themselves for so long. We were afraid of the galaxy, afraid of being overwhelmed by others' emotions. We thought separation kept us safe. But it made us vulnerable. When the Krell came, we had no allies, no friends, no one who cared enough to help us. She turned to Taman, her lights pulsing with warm colors. Humans are different. You don't retreat from what you don't understand. You reach toward it. You want to connect, to learn, to share. Even when it's difficult or painful, you try. We're not perfect, Taman said. We make plenty of mistakes. But you care, Vela replied. That matters more than being perfect. You cared about me when no one else did. Your species cared about preserving my people's memories when it would have been easier to forget us. In the distance, Taman could see the other Sirath survivors. They had all been found and brought to New Haven over the past months. Seeing them together, supporting each other, had been emotional for everyone involved. One of them, a male named Kieran, had been a musician before the genocide. He was now teaching human volunteers the instruments his people had played. The sounds drifting from his workshop were strange and beautiful, mixing Sirath and human musical traditions. Another survivor, Lyra, had been a scientist. She was working with human researchers to study Sirath biology and abilities. Her goal was to ensure future generations would understand how the Sirath had evolved and what made them unique. Everyone is finding their purpose again, Vela observed. We're all healers in different ways. Kieran heals through music. Lyra heals through knowledge. And I heal through memory. What about me? Taman asked with a slight smile. How do I heal? Vela turned to him, her dark eyes reflecting the garden lights. You heal through connection. You saw me when others saw only danger. You heard me when others heard only noise. You understood me when understanding seemed impossible. She reached out and took his hand, her crystalline skin cool and smooth. You're the only one who got me, human, she said softly, echoing the words she'd spoken months ago in that council chamber. But the difference now is that I'm not broken anymore. You helped me find a way to live with my pain instead of being destroyed by it. You helped me too, Taman said. Before I met you, I thought I understood aliens. I thought studying languages and cultures made me an expert. But you taught me that real understanding requires more than academic knowledge. It requires empathy, compassion, the willingness to feel what others feel, even when it hurts. They stood together in the garden as the last light faded from the sky. Above them, stars began appearing, countless points of light in the darkness. Do you ever wonder what happens next? Vela asked. We've built this sanctuary, preserved the memories, found a way forward. But where does it lead? I don't know, Taman admitted. But I think that's okay. We don't need to have everything figured out. We just need to keep trying, keep learning, keep caring. Vela's lights pulsed with soft rainbow colors. My people used to believe that every being in the universe has a resonance, a unique frequency at which they connect to others. We spent thousands of years searching the galaxy for others who shared our resonance. We never found them. And now? Taman asked. Now I think we were looking for the wrong thing, Vela said. We wanted perfect understanding, perfect harmony. But humans taught me that connection doesn't require perfect matching. It just requires willingness. You don't feel emotions the way I do. Your species is fundamentally different from mine, but you were willing to try understanding anyway. That willingness, that openness, that's its own kind of resonance. In the weeks that followed, New Haven continued to grow. More volunteers arrived. More memories were shared and preserved. The Sirath survivors began teaching their traditional arts and sciences, creating a unique hybrid culture that blended Sirath and human elements. Heejin opened a research center dedicated to studying emotional communication across species. Scientists from dozens of worlds came to learn from the Sirath-human collaboration. Nari worked with the Galactic Council to establish new protocols for protecting endangered species. The Haven Initiative, as it became known, promised sanctuary and support for any species facing extinction. The investigation into the Sirath genocide concluded with several high-ranking officials being removed from power. The Krell Empire was sanctioned heavily. While it couldn't bring back the billions who had died, it sent a message that genocide would not be tolerated or covered up. One evening, Taman and Vela sat together on a cliff overlooking the settlement. Below them, lights glowed in windows. They could hear music drifting up, Sirath songs sung with human voices. "I've been thinking about memory," Vela said, "how it shapes us. My people believed memories were sacred, things to be preserved exactly as they happened. But working with humans, I've learned something new." "What's that?" "Memories aren't meant to stay frozen," Vela explained. "They're supposed to grow and change, to be passed down and transformed. The humans who carry my people's memories, they add their own interpretation, their own understanding.